So waiting for a couple people to join in conversation. So waiting for some folks to jump on. A couple things I want to talk about tonight while I have this opportunity and this free time. I wanted to reach out to all of you, let you all know that I'm doing well. Currently attending a conference in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And in the midst of that, I'm still keeping my eyes out in terms of what's going on in my city, in Paterson, New Jersey. And the reason why I entitled this live video the way I did is because I want to talk about something tonight in the area of purpose. Because I know some of you all have been concerned, and I understand that. You called and you say, I appreciate you advocating and I appreciate you fighting, but remember you have a family, and to just remember that, here's the thing. I would not be fighting the way I'm fighting if I didn't have a family. I have a daughter and a son, as you all know. My son, is autistic. My son is also 13. My son, with God's grace, my son will one day be a young adult and then a full grown adult. I'm fighting because suppose my son, sometimes he bounces around, sometimes he hits the wall, things of that nature. Sometimes he does things because that's just how he is. But I don't want him to be victimized by the police because they say, oh, he was erratic and he was throwing his hands around and we didn't know what to do, so we just shot him. Because we've seen incidents like that where people where especially men with special needs would have a situation arise where they respond in their normal behavior of maybe throwing their hands around or picking things up or what have you. And police who are not trained on how to deal with individuals who have emotional distress or special needs, or they don't know how to address that. They've never been taught or trained on how to do that. All they know is to pull out their firearm and start shooting. And we've seen that happen on many occasions where people have been killed who had special needs, and there was a certain way that you needed to deal with them, but because they're not trained in that area, they don't know, so they resort to 101, just shoot them and then we'll figure it all out later. That cannot be the norm anymore. We cannot continue to allow it to happen. So when I'm out here fighting, not just fighting for the folks in the community that come to me and say, hey, Corey, I need you to advocate on my behalf. I'm also fighting for my son because I'm afraid for my son. He's a young black man. He's going to be, a young adult one day. He's going to be a black man an adult, a full-grown black man one day. And I know, through the grace of God, that God's still working on him, and he has a lot of improvements. But I just needed to find out what can be done to make sure that de-escalation training, which I still don't think is taking place. If it's taking place, then some folks are obviously not paying attention and learning from it. But the de-escalation training and also learning how to deal with someone who may have a mental issue or an emotional issue, rather than just trying to take them out and then later on we'll figure out what's going on. That cannot be the modus operandi anymore. That cannot be the way things operate. So, like I said, when I'm fighting for him, I'm not only fighting for him, I'm fighting for everyone else that may be dealing with that situation. Because if you guys know, I started my journey, even with the school board, I started advocating for special needs children on account of the fact that Governor Christie back in 2008, let me close this. You guys got to call me when I'm done. Though, although Governor Murphy not Governor Murphy, I just lost my train of thought. The governor that was in power in 2008, Chris Christie. That's it. That's it. The governor who was in power in 2008, Chris Christie, he ended up streamlining the SFRA, or the School Funding Reform Act, monies that were allocated to various districts, and it became, an issue because programs and services that my daughter was supposed to have, she did not receive. So, that's why I got involved, even because of special needs children and them not receiving the services they're supposed to get. And to this very day, thousands of students are receiving the services that they're supposed to get because of advocacy from parents like myself on the front lines fighting. But as children get bigger and get older, if they have those special needs, unless God, works a miracle in their life, a lot of those children will grow up with some of those same challenges. Unless there's a